Hold on, I got to take a shot of whiskey here. Hang on. And I made it. Without further ado, we bring our boy in, Big Z, Zander Krause. How you doing, brother?
What's up, Big Cells? How you doing, brother?
Oh, good. Hey, so like, what do you make of your owner, man? He jumps off the yacht, goes through the canals, goes through Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario. He lands there in Minneapolis. He gets off his yacht. He's got Jason Kelsey with him. He goes in there and he starts barking about, hey, this is us versus the world.
Yeah, baby.
To do with the play. What do you make of your boy?
I like that. That's a good thing, man. That's a why not? Why not? Right? He went in there, he pulled out all the stops, and he saved the play for another year. Guaranteed his quarterback another 10 rushing touchdowns. And all good. But I will say that comment was very odd. I just didn't like. I didn't really get the analogy. Two, I thought, like, how do you, of all the things you can say, why say that in the owners' meeting? I just thought it was weird, but listen, he got the job done. That's all that matters.
You know, John said something that was so great on this. You know what? He really did. And Jerry Jones, of all people, I went like, after listening to what you said, I had to pull it up, the comment, and I'm like,
oh, Jerry? Yeah, Jerry, yeah.
And I went, Jerry's right. Is it about hating the fact the Eagles have an advantage because they're the champ?
Right.
Or do I really hate the play? You know, I mean, you had me saying that. Hey, do I hate the play? Or is it more about the Eagles having an advantage?
Sileo was Jerry about this. He didn't want Sileo didn't want to see Jalen get another 10 rushing touchdowns.
I went like this. This is more about hating on what the Eagles are doing. Because really, ask yourself this. If the Tennessee Titans were running this play, or the Carolina Panthers were running this play, would this even be a comment? Would there even be a debate?
No, there wouldn't. There would not.
You were proud of your owner then yesterday, dropping all kinds of crazy shit.
Well, I think he could have easily just went there and did nothing and probably lost the vote because that's how it was talked about. But he decided, let me bring in Jason, let me bring in John Ferrari, let me call it a wetcherine, let me do all these different things. He basically, some of the comments I read too, or at least that were reported, were like, you guys are taking on responsibility for quarterback injuries if you vote against this, like all sorts of different stuff that he was saying. And then he ended it with, whether we win or lose this vote, we're still winners, this organization, and we got a Super Bowl ring to show for it. Like, you got to read the ESPN article that kind of chronicled what he said, but pretty funny. Listen, Jeffrey Lurie's confident right now, and he should be. He should be his right. He should be his right. He should be a power broker in the NFL, and that's how it's happening. I think this was the first showing of kind of hearing it like that. Like Jerry Jones, you've always known, has been like one of the big dog owners, right? He walks in there, he gets what he wants, he does what he wants, whether he's a good football team or not. Jeffrey Lurie's kind of starting to show some of those things where he's trying to be a bit bigger of a power broker in the league, and I think it's working.
So we have King Hurts, and now we have Chancellor Lurie. So, I mean, this is pretty good. So, I mean, when the riches of being a champion kind of changes you a little bit here. So the owner's going around swinging as you know what.
Yeah.
Okay. And Hurts
dragging him across the counter for sure.
Oh, dude, there's a part of me that it likes this because you know why? Hey, these are checks you are like writing here, and you're gonna have to come September. You're gonna have, which they have. All right. So, talking to Howard Eskin, talking to some folks inside the building here.
Yeah, and listening to Angelo Cataldi last hour would have acted like you would have thought we were talking about Adam Gase and Urban Meyer between Nick Sirianni and Andy Reid. I mean, Angelo, come on, get a grip here. There's 4 Super Bowls between these two guys, and you're talking about them like they're castaways, like they're trash can head coaches. Come on, Cataldi.
Hey. So 3 years, 13.5 per year for your boy Nick Sirianni is what we're hearing and what we're going to stand on. And I got a pretty good guy telling me that that's kind of what it is. What do you make of that, if true?
They don't like him as much as
I don't think that's the case.
They like him, but they don't think he's the reason for the show. That's for certain. If that's the case, but I'm not. We'll say, he's here to stay. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway from it. But there's no doubt about it that the Eagles organization still holds the same feeling they did after Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, which is that this is our ship, and we're the reason for everything here. And listen, at the end of the day, they've kind of proven themselves right.
Right.
Even just the incarnation of Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts is kind of proof that they're right, because you had an entirely different coach, quarterback, coordinators, regime, top to bottom in 2018. And then 7 years later, you win another Super Bowl with a new coach, new coordinators, new quarterback. Like most organizations take how long to flip over a quarterback?
Oh, God.
I mean, come on.
The Dolphins are still doing it.
Look at New England. They're trash since Brady left out of there. You know what I mean? So the fact that they were able to turn us over so quick with a new coach, a new quarterback, basically an entirely new roster outside of 4 guys. You mentioned, Brandon Graham. He's one of only 4 Eagles to have 2 Super Bowl rings. I think it's him, Lane Johnson, Jake Elliott, and Rick Lovato, the long snapper who they let go this year. But there's only 4 Eagles who have 2 Super Bowl rings. So that shows you the level of turnover the roster had, and 2 Super Bowl rings in that many years with different coaches and different quarterbacks might tell you they think they're more important than not only Nick, but Jalen and all the players.
See, I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't either. I don't know. I'm just calling it how I see it.
No.
It's a bad thing.
It's funny, Zander, when I say this about Hurts, hey, you've got one of the very few football teams, if not the only team in the NFL, that has built a really great roster where your quarterback doesn't have to be sensational every week. That's not a rip.
No, that's the truth.
That to me shows you how good your team and a good organization that you have, that you're like, how many quarterbacks do you think in pro football could go out and win 4 games in the playoffs, win a Super Bowl? 1? Maybe the guy in Kansas City? I don't think there's a lot of guys in the league that can do that. So again, it's not a rip. It's about the structure and the internal way that you guys are looking at yourselves. Again, it's not dysfunctional. Somebody brought this up yesterday. It's unique in how they run their team. They believe, like you say, and I think the 13-5, do you think there's any coincidence, by the way, that the Philadelphia Eagles under Jeffrey Lurie has never hired a coach with any head coaching experience except for Chip in college? They've never hired a guy.
That's not coaching experience either. That's way different. Coming to the pros is way different. That's not coaching.
That's right. There's no coach in the building they've ever hired that had previous head coaching experience in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a good takeaway. Yeah, no, I mean, look, that's their philosophy. And again, like you said, it's clearly not a bad thing. I mean, the team is super successful. No, yeah, it's not a rip at all. But, here's the other thing about Nick, where it's like, John's take about Nick having all the leverage in these negotiations. Like,
no way.
I mean, I just named a couple of guys, Adam Gase, Urban Meyer. I mean, think about what Nick could be if he didn't go to an organization as good as Philly. He might not even be a head coach right now.
He might not have survived that opening press conference.
Right. So he kind of came to an organization that said, you're going to be able to grow. You're going to be able to learn. You're going to be able to fail a lot. And you're still going to be able to win because, we have such a good system in place that is going to give you, is going to give you a chance to be able to do those things. Now, I do think Nick is responsible for some things. I do. I'm not sitting up here saying, oh, if you get rid of Nick, they're just going to win now. But I do think the philosophy that they're employing right now is clearly one that works very well, right? I mean, I think the whole different thing with two different regimes, basically entirely outside of Howie Roseman. I mean, even if you even look at the assistant GMs that were in the building in Howie in 2018, those guys are all gone. Like, this is an entirely new regime. So it's clear the head of the snake is the 2 guys, owner and GM, that are really, really doing good things right now.
Let me expand on what you just said. So how much respect, or wait a minute, I'll take that back. How much pride do you think your owner takes in developing, let's see, Andrew Berry, Joe Douglas last year, the assistant GM at Pittsburgh. I think that's it. You have 3 general managers that came out of your building.
Yeah. Well, no, wait, who'd you say? Who'd you say?
Andrew Berry.
Okay.
Joe Douglas a year ago was the
Yep.
Jets guy. The assistant guy who's in Pittsburgh is the associate GM in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else that was in the building.
Andy Weidel, I think you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I am. That's exactly what I'm talking about in Pittsburgh.
There's a lot more too like lesser guys, not lesser guys, but guys that are a little bit lower down the totem pole across.
But then you also look at Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, John Harbaugh, a bunch of coaches who have been in your building that have come through the Eagles, who were hired by the owner, hired by the organization, Banner, Howie. How much pride do you think he takes in having hired Howie Roseman, having hired Nick Sirianni, having hired all those assistant and future general managers? How much pride do you think he takes in showing that, hey, I hired Doug, they won a Super Bowl. I moved off of Doug, I got another guy, and he won another Super Bowl. How much pride do you think he takes in the fact that, and this is why maybe that salary is not 21,
right,
that he thinks it's more about him and the way they do business. How much pride do you think he takes?
I think he takes a lot of pride, because what's a more fail-proof
Why
method?
wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, think about, having the coach that does everything is a good thing when it works, but how rare is it? Look at across the league right now. How many coaches, one, do that, and two, how many are successful with it? So this method.
Look at the Cowboys.
Take a guy like Nick, take a guy like Doug, take a guy like you can do different things and still be successful with it. So I would take a ton of pride in it. I mean, that's maybe the biggest success for him as a business owner, is that you can plug multiple people, is that you have this setup in your organization. I mean, the rings and everything are nice, but those are essentially the icing. They're essentially the reward for the process that you've set up and that you've created. Those are what you get by doing the right things day in and day out. So I think Jeffrey Lurie's done a really good job. I mean, I haven't been the biggest Jeffrey Lurie fan in terms of personally and some of those things, but he's been a tremendous sports owner for sure. I mean, a blueprint I think that many can follow.
How many owners in the league right now that are current have had multiple coaches win Super Bowls under multiple regimes or taking? So he's had 3 different coaches. Is that correct? Take in his time owning the Eagles, he's had 3 different coaches go to a Super Bowl, and he's had 2 different ones win it, right?
Yep.
Jerry hasn't done that. Bob Kraft even hasn't. No, Bob Kraft did it twice, Parcells and Belichick.
Right, yeah.
Okay, but that was an L. They lost to Green Bay. Name me another organization that has had under current ownership, and Green Bay doesn't count because they don't have an owner. Name me another situation where you go, the Eagles the Rams weren't owned by the current group. Now, Kroenke didn't own it when they won it in St. Louis. That was Georgie Franier. Can you name me another organization? The Rooneys? Okay, the Rooneys had 3 different coaches win Super Bowls. Okay. Yeah. But they've been in place for 65 years.
Right. Way different.
This guy's only been there 25, 30 years.
Yeah, and really he didn't find the success until post Andy Reid. Now, Andy Reid was a big part of that. All right. So you can't, I know they never won with Andy, but Andy set the foundation.
They set the blueprint.
Yeah, he set the blueprint. He put it in motion here in a big way. So, no, you're right, though. I mean, and even still, if you could dumb it down to the last 10 years. All right. When Doug Peterson got hired, when? 2016?
Let me see.
2015?
Hold on here. I got it right here.
I think 2016 or 2015, maybe.
He got in. Peterson was hired in 16.
16.
So
in the last 9 years, it's 2025 right now. In the last 9 years, he's built 2 coaches, 2 Super Bowl teams, 2 Super Bowl winners, another NFC title. I don't know how many times we've won the NFC East, and arguably the best roster over the last 10 years consistently year in and year out has been the Eagles. Now, the Cowboys have had some good years. The Commanders obviously had a good year last year, but the Eagles have been the top of the NFC East, and it's really not even close in the last decade.
You know what the stat is, don't you? Since he's owned the team, since 2000, I think it is actually. He owned it at the late part of the 90s, but since 2000, I think all the playoff wins, they have more playoff wins than every other team in the NFC East combined.
You want to hear something that pisses me off? You want to hear something that pisses me off right now that I want the team to accomplish this year?
Tell me.
I'm pissed off that we can't win the NFC East twice in a row. Like, this team is too good for that. Get that monkey off your back. Whatever you have to, they got to win the NFC East this year. This team has been too dominant in the last decade to not have a repeat. All right. You could easily make the argument.
Weirdest stat ever. Weirdest stat ever.
We're the Chiefs of the NFC East, but we don't have the NFC East crown like every year. Like, the fact that we haven't won it back to back bothers me. You know, I'm like, come on, man, we got to get that thing. We got to get that back to back to really show that we're the dominant team in the East. I mean, you can say you're the dominant team in the East, but if you can't even win it back to back in 2 years, you know, yeah, we were the last to do it, Anthony, but that was like 04, man. That was 04 or 05, I think.
Yeah, you're talking 21 years ago.
Yeah, 21 years. Yep.
I mean, since that.
It's a long time, man. It's a long time.
This is kind of a hard question, but let me throw it at you here anyway. By the way, all supers will be read at the end. Please hit the like button. In 10 years from now, who do you think will be the most revered Eagle head coach under Jeffrey Lurie? Andy Reid? Doug Peterson? Or Nick Sirianni?
I think by default, Nick Sirianni.
You think more fans in Philly respect Nick Sirianni more than they do Doug right now?
No, but you said 10 years from now.
Oh, yeah. You know, okay.
So I'm kind of factoring in. You take the first 4 years. All right. You factor in that the team, I'm assuming the team has success in the next year. Now, granted, they could have a 23 collapse and Nick Sirianni's gone. And then
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, the answer to this question could change quickly. But if I'm assuming that Nick is going to have some staying power, I'm assuming that they're going to win at a similar clip, maybe not the same level, but at a similar clip in the next 3 to 5 years. And I think Nick will be ultimately the guy that's the most revered. And it'll be different for different reasons. Like, Andy Reid was a lot different reasons. Now, Andy didn't get the hardware, so that's what's going to give Nick the big advantage there. Nick will obviously win a lot more, I think, than Andy won. But shoot, dude, if you keep winning like this with Nick Sirianni, I mean, hard to say it wouldn't be him.
Let me ask you this question about Andy and how Eagle fans see Andy. How much is that being polluted by what he's doing at KC now compared to what he did when he was in Philly, when he shit the bed with 2 minutes left in games, shit the bed when his time management.
Yeah.
Dude, you know, one of the
remember, you know, Donovan shit the bed too in moments.
But one of the things Andy's biggest criticisms were was time management.
Yeah, I know. And he still deals with some of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, he does. You know what's made him a better coach?
He's quarterback now.
Yeah, right. What's made him a better coach is the guy he's got in KC. Okay, I mean, if you just looked at Andy and went, man, he was the almost coach. I mean,
yeah, he was. It's a good way to put it.
He's the almost coach.
Yeah, no,
I'm not suggesting to you that Andy's not a better coach than Doug, or he's not a better coach than Nick. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's a little bit when you see Andy today. That's a different Andy Reid, don't you think, than the Andy Reid that was in Philly?
Yeah, and I honestly, you said the question, the way you phrased it 10 years from now, I think Andy Reid could be viewed above Doug Peterson on that timeline. Maybe not right now. But doesn't Doug already feel like he was a little bit of like
a product of the environment?
No, he feels like he was a flash in the pan a little bit. Like, he was here today and gone pretty quick. And then let's just zoom ahead. Like, let's say Nick Sirianni is here for 10 years, right? You'll look at Nick and you'll say 10 or a Super Bowl, 10 years, whatever the winning percentage is after 10 years. You'll look at Andy and you'll say 13 years and establish the culture. And you'll say Doug was here for 5 years. He won a Super Bowl with a backup, but, you know, everything else was the reason that Doug won. And clearly the organization, helped Doug more than Doug helped the organization. I'm saying how it might look in 10 years from now. You know, like, we look back on Andy Reid now and we can say he never got the job done, but he did set up the organization for success that they're having right now, right? So I wonder how that's going to change with Doug, because it already feels a little flash in the panty to me. And I think Nick winning so soon after Doug hurt Doug Peterson, you know, versus if they don't have success for another 10 years, you're like, man, I miss Doug, you know, but they had success pretty quickly, very soon, very quickly thereafter.
let me ask you a couple more here. Let me ask you this question about your fan base. Xander, you're a passionate Eagle fan. A lot of people in here are. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think the entire fan base, and let's just say these numbers are true, 13-5, the organization not paying him top 5 money for a roster where he's top 4 percentage-wise in the history of the sport. So you got to remember how the Eagles look at him right now. And again, you guys may say that those numbers are wrong and Howard Eskin's wrong, and some of the people like Clint Hurd are wrong. But these are people that are telling me this. So you tell me, how do you think the fan base, if the organization sees him as part of the machine, how do you think the fan base sees Nick right now? Don't you think there's part of it that does this? Hey, we really love this guy. But there's always that but. There's still a but with him. And again, I wonder if that 23, some of the sideline stuff, even with the winning, it's not erased it. It's softened it. Where even you are now I like the guy more, but isn't there a softer but with you when you're talking about Nick a little bit? Because, dude, I think that thing could turn in 10 seconds because the owner's even impulsive.
Well, that's the interesting question right now is if you let this play out and Nick is eventually blown out of here, how does the fan perspective on him change post Nick Sirianni versus right now we're in the midst of it, where many people will be excited for him or like him. I like him. I mean, I do. I like Nick Sirianni, but I can acknowledge that if he does move on or he gets fired or whatever reason, and we have another successful coach, like you'll probably look at Nick and be like, that guy was a goofball, So I think the fan base likes him. I don't think they believe that he's Andy Reid. I don't think they believe that he's like this great coach, but I do think they like him.
Do you think he's Doug Peterson? Like you said, a flash in the pan.
Doug was offensive play caller, the offensive mind, not the play caller for the whole time, but he was the offensive mind. I mean, he called most of the plays even through the Super Bowl. So I don't know. This is a tough response. I mean, I think they like Nick because we're winning right now. Like how could ask me? Here's a better question. How could you find a fan on the street, and say, what do you think of Nick? And they wouldn't say something good. The team is like 50-20 in the last 4 years. They've been to 2 Super Bowls. They won one.
I think people revere Howie more than the head coach.
Well, but they wouldn't. My point is that in the frame of mind they're in right now, they're not going to discredit Nick Sirianni.
No, they're not. But name me another organization where the general manager, a fan base would say, if you had to pick, which guy do you think is more responsible for building?
Howie's more famous, like in terms of Philly.
Howie's more famous. Yeah. He's the man of the year in Philly.
Yeah. Howie's that dude. I mean, for sure.
But don't you think he hurts Nick a little bit? And again, this goes back to John's thing about navigating it through. If they want to have, and he wants to be the face, and he wants to have all that, Nick goes out of his way. Howie and Jeff. Thank you. Isn't that part of navigating it through?
Yeah, it is.
You know what he's okay being? He's okay being Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for him. It's tough. I always hate speaking like on behalf of fans because it's like, dude, the amount of people, Philadelphians I talk to on a day-to-day basis, it's a melting pot. It really is. And that's one thing I love about this city. But to speak for all the fans is tough to do. But, I get your takes on Nick Sirianni and everything, but we don't have a lot of success as a franchise in the last 60 years. We don't. So this guy comes in and whatever he's doing is working to the tune of, 11 wins is a bad year. Like he almost got fired after 11 wins.
Tell the Jet fans that.
Right. Like that's dude, we operate, our fan base operates in a different realm right now. I mean, we used to be happy with those silver medals type of stuff because we didn't have much, I mean, it used to be before 2017, it used to be, well, Andy didn't make it to the NFC title game 5 times. That's pretty big success. It's changing. It's changing rapidly in Philly.
It's
and you're
funny.
covering it.
It's funny. if I had to pick a quarterback that reminded me of Nick Sirianni of coaches, it'd be Jalen Hurts.
What would be Jalen Hurts?
If I had to make a comparison of a quarterback in the NFL today, and I said, who is the head coach and who's the quarterback that reminds you of a head coach in the NFL? Who would you compare Nick Sirianni to if you had to pick a quarterback? It would be Jalen Hurts.
See, now you're going too far.
Wait a minute.
No, hear me out.
I've been to 2 Super Bowls and he's won.
Shut up for a second. You know football. You've played football your whole life. You've covered football your whole life. Are you really going to make a take to me right now that the guys wearing suits are more important than the coach and the quarterback?
No. I said if I had to pick a quarterback that the coach reminds me.
I know what you're saying. You're saying they're both the caboose.
No.
That's what you're saying, Sileo.
I'm just saying, if I had to pick, like, he's not Josh Allen. He's not Joe Burrow. He's Jalen Hurts. What's wrong with that? Jalen wins.
About Nick, what you've said about Jalen for 4 years, the guy's a caboose.
Well, here, I got a sheet today about looking at the favorites.
Find me another franchise in the history of football, however long football is being played, where the coach and the quarterback were the caboose. I mean, come on, Sills.
Hold on. Wait, I didn't say you're throwing caboose.
Coach and quarterback?
Wait. If I had to pick a quarterback that Sills, when you see Nick Sirianni, Sills, what quarterback do you see that kind of, if you had to pick, what quarterback in the league that reminds you of the head coach in Philly? It'd be Jalen Hurts. It'd be perfect. Hey, he wins a lot.
Why? Why would he be perfect?
Because he does exactly what the organization has built. He fits into what they want. He does exactly what they need.
All right, go ahead. Say it. Say the word. I'll say it with you.
And he, hey, there's Howie Roseman is the engine. Saquon Barkley.
Your respect for Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, man, is like top.
Howie Roseman is the engine, and Nick Sirianni is the caboose, and Saquon Barkley's the engine, and Jalen Hurts is the caboose. So
the Eagles are the first organization in the history of football to make their coach and their quarterback the caboose, and everything else works perfectly around them, and they got nothing to do with it.
Hey,
come on, man.
Troy Aikman was the caboose.
Come on, man. I can't subscribe.
Troy Aikman was the caboose.
Oh, who's this coach?
Jimmy Johnson.
Was he a caboose?
No, that guy was the mother, you know what?
Yes, he was.
And they've not been able to replace it. It's funny. I got a thing from a casino today, and they were talking about NFL Coach of the Year candidates and the favorites to win the NFL Coach of the Year. I looked out at the list. Number 31 is Nick Sirianni at plus 8,000. And I was like,
put that context in. Why?
Well, because he's got a good team. I get it.
Yeah, it's hard to win Coach of the Year when you have. I mean, the only guys who win Coach of the Year, who won Coach of the Year last year?
I don't even remember. What's it?
I think it was that bum in Minnesota.
Oh, Mike McDaniels. He did.
No, not Mike McDaniels.
Mike. What was his name?
Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell. That's it.
Yeah,
Kevin
because
O'Connell.
the guy led Sammy Stinks to 14 wins. That's why I won it.
Well, I think that's pretty impressive for a guy who was a garbage can.
But that's my point. Is that's who wins those awards? Guys that have bad expectations to be shitty and they're not shitty.
Brian Dable, right?
How many Coach of the Years has Andy won? How many Coach of the Years did Belichick win?
I think 2 in 25 years.
That's what I mean. That's crazy, dude. So the only guys who
I'm
win
not
those
sure
awards
Bill Walsh ever won one.
By the way, I now think that Ben Johnson is going to be a certified stiff as a head coach.
You know what's funny? Every single team you have now mentioned outside of Philly is going to have a step back, not the Eagles.
Shit.
Everyone's stepping back, and Ben Johnson sucks. Let me ask you this.
Did you hear that knucklehead? First downs and touchdown. I like explosive plays. That's it. I like explosive. That sounds like a guy who had how many picks did Jared Goff throw in that? He had Jamison Williams throw a pick. He liked explosive plays so much
Yeah, go
that they
plant
got
the
blown
flowers.
out by
Go
the
plant the-
Commanders
go
in the
plant the flowers.
divisional round.
How about this? Let me ask you this. Okay, so when
That guy's in love with the wrong things.
So when Ben Johnson was up in Detroit, you'll have to help me out here. Jared Goff, I thought he was just going up there to be a stopgap quarterback. They go up there. That guy's won 43 ball games, and he's lost 20. And he's thrown for over 4,500 yards, and he's put Detroit back on the map. And by the way, there was no culture in Detroit. Dude, do you know last time they won a championship?
Oh, and you think that was Ben Johnson? That was Campbell. That was
Campbell
65.
and Holmes. Well, wait a minute. It's either this then. It's either they're going to suffer from losing a coordinator or they're not. Which is
they're going to suffer.
Okay.
But Ben Johnson.
So wait, the Bears won't benefit from that?
Ben Johnson, the coordinator, is going to be different than Ben Johnson.
Wait. Okay. Just like Nick Sirianni was when he got fired from being the offensive coordinator in Philly.
And he also led his team to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. Let's see Ben Johnson
not being the play caller.
Who cares?
Here. Okay, wait. No,
that's my point. Being the coordinator is different than being the head coach.
Bro, this guy here, you're trying to tell me you don't think he had any kind of impact on the offensive output? I don't remember Matthews. I don't remember Matthews. Well, I am. He did have an impact
100%.
Because Jared Goff was thrown to the wolves because he was supposed to be a stopgap guy.
Yeah, but not every
it's a $53 million a year quarterback.
Not every
he saved. How do you say he didn't have he had an impact, a massive impact on Jared Goff's career to be able to get a $255 million contract. Did he not?
Let's say. I think he's going to be a good coach. I think he's going to benefit Caleb Williams. I think in big moments, he's going to make dumb, boneheaded plays that offensive minds love and fall in love with, and it's going to cost them games like it did this year. He had Sills. He had his wide receiver,
dude,
throwing.
They lost
the season on the line.
They lost 25. Listen, not to make excuses here, and I'm not, but they lost 25 football players a year ago, and they were still able to get to the division round with all those losses they had back. They lose an 1,100-yard running back. They lose an offensive guard. They lose Aiden Hutchinson. Dude, nobody can survive that. And yet they did.
Is that I don't think his priorities have straightened out since that game. You have to understand as an offensive mind that there's times to push and there's times to try and win the ball game. There's times to do things a little bit differently. He forced so many things in that game. And then he gets asked about the tush push the other day and he goes, I'm not a tush push guy. I like explosive plays. That's all the dude cares about.
He's going to have a massive impact on
Caleb Williams. He's going to have a massive impact on explosive plays, and they're not going to win dick.
Okay, we'll see. I disagree. So how about this? So why, in your opinion, do you think Jaden Daniels takes a step back?
Well, I think that the league is gonna have more tape on him a little bit. I don't think he's going to take a huge step back because I think the team is going to struggle a little bit because they set such high expectations for year one of being good. Being a good team in 1 year is a fun experiment. Being a continuous good team year after year is different. And it's a learning process for anybody, no matter how good you are, including people like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and the rest of them. So I'm not saying that Jaden's going to take a big step back. Actually, you could liken Jaden's year 2 to potentially Hurts's year 2 with Shane Steichen, which was very good because he had the continuity from the coordinator. My take on him is more that the rest of the league is going to rise up to where they were, and the expectations they set were so high for a team that was good in the first year being good that they're going to be hard to meet those expectations.
And this is going to be a factor too. Yeah, and this is going to be a factor too, right?
Yeah,
you're playing really good teams now because you made it to the NFC Championship game, right?
Yeah, like if they won 9 games last year, you're they'll probably improve on that again. But they come in, they win 11 games or 11 or 12 games. 12. I forget what 12, right? 12 games. They go to the NFC title game. Like that team is shooting for Super Bowl now. And you got a second-year quarterback where you're like, all right, like let's tame it a little bit, So I can see 10 wins for them this year.
It's a great take by you, and I'll tell you why. See, the schedule is not going to affect the Eagles in any way. It may a couple wins here or there, but remember, their season now, Zander, is about postseason. And winning the East and being a team that's fighting at the end of the year for what? Home field advantage, right? That's what, and Who cares what the number looks like, 12 or 14, right?
Yeah.
It's about being in the room for that. That's what they're looking at. They may, like, would you not agree with this? If the Eagles won 12 ball games this year, let's say they go 12-5, okay? And they win the East, they are
13.
okay. Say they do, though. Wouldn't 12 wins be more impressive this year in the regular season than the 27th ranked schedule of a year ago versus the fifth toughest schedule this year? With a team that you lost players on defense,
Well,
I would think that would be an incredible run if they were able to do that this year.
I agree. But let's see how it ends, because the one thing I'll say about the strength of schedule thing is it changes like each week, because right now our strength of schedule goes off of last year. And like the amount of parity you see in the NFL where teams might not be as good, teams might be better this year. You don't know what some of these teams are going to be. And then after week 8, you're going to start looking at these are the teams who are winning that we have to play on our schedule. When some of those teams might suck, some of them might be great. So the strength of schedule could completely change. But as of right now, it does look like a really tough schedule for sure.
Yeah, to your point, how many times it's got a college feel to it, doesn't it, a little bit? Because how many times you see the top 25 in preseason, then you look at the final 25 at the end of the year and you go like this. Jesus, man, the only thing that's the same is the top 5.
Exactly right. So that's where I'm wondering on that. But I agree with you. Like, and we talked about this a little bit ago. I do think that as a fan base and probably as a team as well, and I think they're already in this mindset, but we're not really in it for the 14 win. Like we are, that's great and all, but we want to get to the dance again. Just get to the playoffs and be healthy.
It's the final four.
Big time. Right. It's shaking.
That's the NFC title game.
Exactly. You're shaking big time for the Eagles once you get in those moments, because look, Super Bowl champs now, baby. We're no longer climbing hills. All right. We have think about
the Chiefs. You're looking down. You're looking down.
The Chiefs a year ago, everybody was clowning on them in the middle of the year. And then what they do? They got to the playoffs, they laughed their way to a Super Bowl ring. All right. And they don't care at the end of it. Nobody talks about how crappy they were in the season. They won the damn Super Bowl. That's a team that has their sights on the Super Bowl, not on, hey, we need to win 14 games this year. That's Cowboys thinking. It really is. Let's win 14 ball games, and then you shit the bed when the playoffs show up.
All right, finally,
and then play great.
Finally, here, Zander. So I was asked to give my preseason MVP prediction. I was right last year, as usual.
No, you weren't.
With Josh Allen. Oh, yeah, it was.
Tough year last year.
Dude, I picked Josh Allen to win the National Football League's most valuable player.
Let me guess. You're picking Jaden Daniels this year. I just called it out. I know it.
Here's my 5.
I just called you. You're predictable, Sileo.
Here's my 5. Number 5. I have from DC. I have Jaden Daniels. Washington Commander.
I can live with him at 5. I feel better.
Number 4.
Sorry.
I have Patrick Mahomes. I think that dude's always got to be in the conversation for MVP at number 4. Number 3, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. Number 2, this pains me, but I have to do it. Josh Allen.
You're going to put Lamar 1.
Yeah.
This guy's the king of MVP awards. Man, Baltimore, enjoy it. You can have. I don't desire what you have at all. At all. This guy's the top of the MVP ranking every year. Who the fuck wants that? Outside of Lamar Jackson, his mother, and his family, who the hell wants that?
Bro, I would take the most valuable player award is a tough award
to
win.
That means you've got to be leading us to Super Bowl.
Hold on. That means you've got to be good for 6 months. And if your defense or you or a guy drops a pass, bro, it's the ultimate team sport.
John McMullen on me. The guy had 3 turnovers in the postseason. Get out of here with that. I want the guy who wins in January.
I didn't say. It's a little different going through.
Too. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Are you trying to tell me that you think 3 MVPs? Are you trying to tell me you think 3 MVPs is dog shit?
No, I'm trying to tell you that I'd rather have a Super Bowl win.
Okay. Like I said, it's tougher to win the MVP award than it is to win a 60-minute football game, Super Bowl MVP.
That's a
20
hollow
guys,
award.
20 guys have won that award, have no way of getting to Canton. None.
Okay. And you let
Almost
me know.
every guy who has won,
when that gives you a parade down
almost
Broad Street.
every guy who has won the MVP award has gone on to go to Canton.
You want to know who my sleeper for MVP is this year?
Please.
Saquon Barkley. Because it's not a running back award, and we all know this. But because of what he did last year, I think people will factor that in.
You
like,
get my vote. If he gets near 1,800
right,
yards.
if he goes 2K again, people are going to be like, dude.
Bro, if he gets 1,800, he'll get it.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I think last year, I know it's not on last year, but I think that would sway people enough to be like, we'll vote for a running back. If the Eagles are 14-3 again and Saquon's got 2K yards, I think people are going to be like, that guy's the MVP of the league.
No, let me ask you one. Let me sneak this last one in because Philly said this, and I'll ask you.
Lamar, the king of MVP awards.
I don't think that's a bad thing, dog. That's how you get to Canton.
I know.
You think the Eagles are going to give him 800 carries in 2 years?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I do. And I think he can get there. I think he can handle it, man. I think he had some listen, I know he was injured a lot in New York, but he
didn't have this line.
No, he didn't have this line. He didn't have this football team. He didn't have the
quarterback
on the outside. I mean, he didn't He didn't have the quarterback who's good in the running game. I think Saquon Barkley could not even be in his prime yet. Think about that.
I'll tell you this: if that guy gets north of 17,
or in his prime right now with another
they
year,
win 14 games and they win the East. They're in the regular season, and that guy ends up going for north to 1,700 yards. And he has 3,700 yards, $4,000 almost in 2 seasons. Dude, you're right. You're going to get a lot of sentiment going like this.
That's Canton too.
That you're now starting to talk about, and then on top of, like you said, in 2 years in Philly, he wins an MVP award and he wins a Super Bowl ring.
He did win Offensive Player of the Year last year, right?
Yes.
And again, and now you're talking about Canton, because it's one thing to leave the Giants and have one good year. If you leave the Giants and you have multiple, the more good years he has post New York, the more it delegitimizes and lessens the impact of the Giants' career, right? Because it shows you, he was stuck with New York for a long time, but look at what he did when he escaped, So I think Saquon's headed to Canton if he does that. And sleeper for MVP for me, man, that'd be awesome to see.
Yeah, who would be your top 3?
I'll put Barkley probably at 3, and I probably go with the same 2 dudes you do, because that's the way those teams are built, right? I mean, that team's calling on Lamar to be that every week. And Josh Allen, if that dude's not an MVP candidate, the Bills are going to win 8 games.
It's funny you say that. It's not a rip on Jalen at all, because Jalen is in a great situation where it's not, but I don't think his career, listen, I don't think his situation is set up like you just said. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, they have to play great.
Joe's a good sleeper for MVP, because that team is literally, and he's going to get the 5,000 passing yards, or 4,500, whatever you want to call it, 4,800. He's going to get up there. So if that team can field a half decent defense, I could see that.
Could you ever see a sleeper in Dak being in the MVP conversation?
I could see that. Dak gets a lot of stats, man. That's a stat award too, But my favorite quarterback in the league is Josh Allen. I think he is. If he's the one guy that I do believe, if he had the right team around him, he would win. Do
you think if he had Howie with him, say Howie was in Buffalo, not put Josh in Philly, but he had Howie.
Yeah, a better team builder. Yeah,
a better team builder.
Yes.
Do you think, again, it'd be a different environment up there?
I do. I think Josh's playoff lapses are much more easily explained than Lamar's. Lamar's are, dude, you got Derrick Henry, you got dudes everywhere, dude.
Zander,
I'm sorry, the Ravens are a great organization too.
Didn't you and I say this after the Eagle Ravens game? Didn't we do this? Look, What was he thinking? Not taking off running when you had wide open space in that Eagle game. And how many times did you see him do this? He would throw like grounders, or they would be like errant passes, where all of a sudden, Xander, I came out of that game doing, man, that guy must have had 15 missed opportunities to do something more. I'm not saying they would have beat him, but they would have done something more, right?
Yeah.
That would have made, like the Kansas City opener you had a year ago. You were like, bro, you didn't really lose that game by a foot in the back of the end zone. You lost that by some decisions that you made in the game that you were playing with Mahomes. Mahomes was just waiting for Mahomes is like a mousetrap.
Sean McDermott's also a dumb.
I completely
get
agree.
that guy. What are they doing? I mean, you got Josh Allen in his prime, and you got Sean McDermott still.
Why not get an why not get an offensive-minded guy to go with him? I agree. Let's do these super, Xander.
I like Josh Allen, though, was my point. I think Josh Allen is a very good player. But look, in the NFL, to win it all, you do have to have more things than just a good quarterback. That's the reality. That's why I try not to knock Jalen ever for having a good team. It's like all these other.
It's not a knock.
No, it's not. But like Lamar, unbelievable player, arguably a top 5 talented quarterback in the history of the game.
Right.
That's how talented Lamar is. Correct. Why isn't he winning?
Right. Bad decisions and moments. He bites the bit.
Again, I knock Lamar in playoffs more than I knock Allen. Like, I think Allen does things year in and year out that put his team in the best position. Do you remember that game that he had 4 touchdown passes to Gabe Davis that game. They took the lead with 13 seconds. Sills, they got the ball back with 48 seconds, I think, in that game. They were in the end zone by the time 13 seconds. Yes. And then Sean McDermott can't manage 13 fucking seconds.
Hey, that game resonates with you, doesn't it? Because I hear you reference that game a lot.
Well, because that's what you want your quarterback to be, Sills.
Yep.
When I think of what do I want from Jalen, do I want him to throw 4K like Sileo? Do I want him to have 40? No. When we need you, when the lights are bright, when it's crunch time to go win a game in the postseason, that's when I want you to be good. And I think Josh Allen, for the most part, is pretty good in those moments. His team just lets him down.
Yeah, he's not a caboose. That's why.
All right. He's not a caboose. But Jalen's not either, because Jalen rises up in those moments too. And that's the whole point of my take on Jalen Hurts. It's not that he's got the best arm or that he throws for $4,000. It's that when we need the guy to be great. Jalen, we have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. We need you to be great. He is one of his best games. Jalen, the Super Bowl is here. We got one chance to win and parade down Broad Street. His 2 best games in his career. Like, dude, I'm buying that stock. I'm buying that guy. That's what I want. Not I threw for 4,500 and all these yards, but like the lights got bright and I shrunk. I was a shrinking violet. I don't like that. I'm out on that.
Let's read these supers, my friend.
Kakorski. This guy's like Cataldi with Nick Sirianni. Come on, Kakorski. He says 2025 NFL MVP is TJ Watt.
Yeah, well, that's not going anywhere for Pittsburgh if he wins that award because, again, who's quarterbacking? Let me guess, Mason Rudolph. Come on, guy. Steelers aren't going anywhere. They need to land Rodgers. And, Aaron, come on, Aaron. Make a decision here, dog. We've already named the Pope. Let's move on here.
Prince checking in, member for 9 months. What up, Prince? Not Zander, speaking like the great Prince Swayze. You play to win the game. Super Bowl Sills, not MVP. Wow, Prince. The great Prince Swayze. You hear that, Sills?
Yeah, MVP. Like I said, Prince. Terrible take. Terrible take. Nobody said you played the game to play for MVPs. You play to be great every day. Every week. Carrying your football team, not sitting in the back of the bus. Thank you, Prince. God. The quarterback and the head coach of the Eagles they're exactly like each other. They're cabooses.
The first team in the history of football being played in American soil would have a coach and a quarterback who are a caboose. Yeah. Let Sileo sell you on that, everybody.
Well, hey, I did. Even the organization doesn't think it. We're going to be so secretive. Because we don't want to show you
your Kool-Aid.
Hey, how about this? They don't. Hey,
organization in the history of football.
Wait a minute. We announced an extension, but we're not going to tell you what it is. Oh, okay. How do I know you really extended him?
The first organization to have a caboose for coach
Think
and
about
quarterback.
that. How do you even know they really extended him?
Every
You
other
might
team
be
in the
bullshit.
league,
How do you know
wait,
they're
every
not
other team in
bullshitting you?
history that's had success, it's all about the
How
coach
do
and the
you
quarterback.
know?
And in
How do you
Philly,
know
it's
how do you
all
know they're
about
not
the
bullshitting
suit.
you? How do you
Come
know they're
on,
not
man.
bullshitting you?
You don't even believe this. You
How
don't
do you
even
know
believe it.
they're not bullshitting you?
You don't even believe this.
Man, unbelievable. They won't. Hey, we extended them, but I'm not going to tell you.
Rashid says, I think Hurts, Sirianni, and the Eagles won 14 games, 22, 11 games with the 31st ranked D and multiple coordinators. No Saquon. Kabosh who?
Okay. Sure.
He's got a good point, though. Think about it. Everybody talked about Sirianni and the collapse in 2023. And he made a bad move if it was him to get rid of Sean Desai. But that team had the 31st ranked defense in the NFL. Look at what Joe Burrow's record was last year with the season he had, which was a historic season through passing yards and touchdowns and all these things. They won 8 ball games. You need to have a good defense in the NFL. Actually, you could argue 23 was a big success compared to what they could have done with a defense that was that bad.
Well, I mean, the last 8 games, weren't they under 500 the last 8 games?
Well, yeah, they were 1-7. They collapsed.
I mean, I don't know. So what do you think they were? Do you think they were closer to being the 10-1 team? Or do you think they were closer to being a 7-10 team?
You are what your record says you are.
That's right. I forgot. Okay.
They weren't good enough to win 14 games. That's why they collapsed. They were an 11-win team.
Caboose. God.
Yeah, the first in the history of football, everybody. Put it in the record books. Put them in Canton. Tell the story for all of time. This is the first football team ever, including Dak. If you go down to Pop Warner.
Get this guy. If he's so great, why didn't you make him the highest paid guy?
We don't know if they didn't. I'm calling bullshit.
Okay. All right. Oh, hey, guess what?
Nick.
I'm more right because they're not going to tell you.
He's no longer Nick Sirianni on this show. He's $19 million Nick.
You know, that's bullshit right there.
19 milli Sirianni.
I guarantee you. Hey,
That's
Howard, you're right. It's 13.5.
I'm calling him 19 milli Nick.
13.5 over 3, not
Lucius
5.
Says, Zander, wasn't Jimmy Johnson also a CEO coach? He didn't call plays just like Nick. They just demanded excellence and held people to standards. Yeah, but he brought in he did all the personnel and stuff.
Hey,
dude. He did a lot.
Lucius, he hired every single assistant.
Yeah.
They came from Miami. They were my coaches at the University of Miami. And every single coach and every single player that Jimmy created the value chart. That's where you got the value chart that Howie uses.
Here, this is what I would say about this. Jimmy was the CEO coach in the truest sense of the word.
Correct.
Nick is a modern CEO coach where he doesn't have to manage any of the top stuff, just on the field stuff, not even personnel.
How about this? Would this be fair? Jimmy Johnson was maybe Nick and Howie together.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what he was.
Okay.
Exactly what he was.
I'll buy that.
Maybe even better than that, by the way. Dank Bird Gang says, people never got over Nick's first presser. First impressions matter. What happened to my camera?
Huh. You all right there?
Up in my back.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think outside of Philly, Dank, I think that's a big thing.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. I think
everybody gets a little nervous though, Zander, when
Yeah, but still, nobody knew who he was. It's one thing to be Ben Johnson.
Okay.
Everybody said, who the hell is Nick Sirianni? And then he introduced himself as a goofball.
Okay.
Ben Johnson was like, hey, this guy's a top coordinator, best offensive coordinator in the last couple of years. Different. Nick Sirianni was an unknown figure. He became known off being a goofball.
Okay.
$19 million Nick.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Super Bowl Nick.
Yeah.
Devin says, Doug had say in his bowl. Nick just cheers. Give me Doug.
Hey, Devin
is out. Devin,
how you doing with an alphabet cereal?
Oh,
there you go.
It was that a beer he's holding in his picture.
Devin, you can't spell caboose without spelling Nicky. How you doing?
Devin Sileo. That's what I'm calling Devin from now on. The guy is so Sileo-ized he can't see. That's why he's got the goggles on, Sileo. He can't see shit. He's so Sileo-ized.
One of my favorite guys.
JD3 says, J-Mac, we are so close to being flag football. Also, J-Mac, let's remove more physicality from the game. Banning pushing won't bring back the old days. Targeting and roughing the passer is what did it. Yeah, definitely contradictory. JD3.
Well, hey, JD3, I don't think he's wrong with the flag football comments about, hey, man.
No, he's not. But JD3 saying, how can you say that and then advocate to get rid of pushing?
Yeah, I'm not. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't give a shit about that play. The Eagles aren't great because of that play. The Eagles are great because of that line. I mean, dude, even Jerry Jones knows that. Do you really think the Eagles are great because of the tush push? Zander, do you really think that?
No, but where I think John is wrong is like he acts like it has nothing to do with their success. Like, dude, it does. Yeah, like every time they have 1 yard, they get it. Like,
they pick up 14 yards a game over it.
Yeah, and 13 of them are first downs. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with him on that front. You're right that the players are what make them a great team. No, but there are certain things that great teams do that make them winners. That's one of them.
Absolutely.
That's one of them.
That's totally true.
Kyle Kokorski says, Stills, Eagles coaching staff is 2.5 men.
Kyle, I love you, man. You're such a great take.
Kyle, I love you and all, but man, what a stupid take.
Awesome, man. Great take. Thank you very much for the supers.
Kyle's the kind of guy who gets in his car and arrives safely at his destination and says, "Oh, thank God I got a nice car. It took me to my destination." Who the fuck drove it, Kyle?
Hey, yeah. Nick drives nothing.
Yeah, he does.
Nick is in the back of the car.
Yes, he does. He's the pilot of that Lamborghini.
He's in the back seat. And
he is the pilot of the Lamborghini.
Depending on who the coordinator is, that Nick is at the behest. You know, his career is in the hands of his coordinator. It is.
Yeah, okay.
The destiny of his career every year is in the hands of a coordinator, whether it be Desai, Brian Johnson, whether it be Kellen.
Look at this. Look at this comment from my man Leon Banks, man, making us walk down memory lane here. Legacy is everything. Imagine if McNabb won all 5 of those NFC title games and went on to win those Super Bowls. Sucks we didn't invest in offense.
He'd be revered more than Montana.
Dude, he would be. Now, granted, you have to, just because if you won the NFC title games, you'd have to still win the Super Bowl, which, let's be real, he puked in the only one he got to, so I'm not sure he'd win those. But
if he won half of those.
Oh, my gosh. If he won half of those, he'd probably be talked about as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Ever.
Yeah.
First ballot.
Remember, he was transcendent at the time, too, because it was lesser dual threats at the time. He was a different type of dual threat, but, you know, he had the cannon of an arm.
Xander, when I saw him at Cuse destroy the University of Miami, he put 65
Dude,
points.
He was insane at Syracuse.
He just dismantled the Hurricane team, man. I mean, there were 65 points put on him, and he was unbelievable. You know, when he ran more early on, when he was an Eagle quarterback, I thought he was at the very best of what he was, bro. He was a great player, man. Hey, Leon, thank you so much. Xander, keep kicking ass on that show, man.
I might have one more. Oh, no, I get you.
Dude, by the way, we got just confirmed here. Phil Simms is going to be tomorrow with us finally after.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get Simms here on the program too tomorrow. So we're looking.
He'll probably tell you the same thing Boomer Esiason did, that Jalen Hurts is an elite player and quarterback. Nick Sirianni's done a great job with the football team. Howie Roseman's the best GM in football. All those things that all of your great Hall of Fame friends have told you.
Yes, that's why Big Sills has an opinion, and that's why
I gotta make something. Maybe I'll print it and sell it on the JAKIB shop, like the Guinness Book of like Sileo records, and all it is stats.
Stats.
Oh, this guy had 4,000 yards 8 times, dude.
Once again, folks, see, I look at it through a player's paycheck. He looks at it through a fan, and he looks at that sitting in the stands going, "Go, guys, go." I look at it as a player going. I see how other players see other players. Other players look. Eyeball test. Is that guy better than that guy? It not in a team environment. Is that guy right there the best player at his position?
Yeah, but that's what fans want. Fans want team wins. Yeah,
I'm telling you, when I look at a player, I go, is that dude better than that guy?
So you like you're a beauty pageant guy.
No,
admit it.
A beauty contest. I look at who's the
admit
best
it.
guy. No, is AJ Brown better?
You're a beauty pageant guy.
How's that being a beauty pageant guy when one guy's better than the next guy? That's not a beauty pageant. That's eyeball test. Either the guy's better or he's not.
What's the eyeball test?
Bro,
Wait.
You
Remind
give
me how
Jalen
beauty
more
pageants
credit
work.
for being in a team environment. I look at
Remind
him
me how beauty
and I
pageants
go like
work.
this. Is A.J. Brown one of the top 3 players at his profession? Yes. Okay, when I
By the
look
way,
at
my
Jalen
new
Hurts
wide receiver
and I see
rankings has
Jalen Hurts, I don't
AJ
see one of the top talents in the sport.
By the way, A.J. Brown's the best wide receiver in the National Football League. Nobody is going to tell me the otherwise. Can you imagine? If he had a passing offense? And I'd rather our offense be what it is because that's the winning offense. But can you imagine what he would have with Joe Burrow? He had 1,500 back-to-back years with Jalen. And I love Jalen. But Jalen's strong suit is
Then
not
why does he
passing
complain
football.
about the offense every year?
Well, because he prefer more of a passing. He's a wide receiver. But imagine the numbers
Let
he
me ask
put
you
up.
one last thing
He is
here.
unguardable.
You think he complains more, but yet settles and says, "Shit, we're still winning, so I'm not going to mess with it."
Dank says, "What do we have to imagine?" Dank, CeeDee Lamb had 147 catches in one football season.
Matter nothing.
A.J. Brown's never even had 100 in Philly, I don't think.
Yeah,
or maybe like 102.
It was like that.
That's what you can imagine. Imagine 150 targets for A.J. Brown. He'd have 2,000 yards.
Sills is the best booking agent I've ever seen. He knows every. Hey, get this. Well, Brian, you want to know my booking technique? I'm laying in bed, I'm watching TV, and I text Boomer Esiason and I go, "Can you come on tomorrow?" Yeah. So, Xander, does that make me a good booker? I don't know. I text people every day. I ask them to come on the program. So, hey,
Brian, he does not have a booking agent. All right. I know it might seem like he does, but he doesn't.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, it will remain, Xander, just so you know. Remember this, folks. All the A+ guests come here and nowhere else. Hey,
Sure.
No. Wait. I do another gig now, but no, we will never put on A+ guests anywhere else. They only come here because, you know why? Because of you freaks. Oh, and by the way, what about George Soros? I didn't know that.
I'm surprised you didn't know that.
I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
no wonder the takes are shitty over there now.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they've called him directly about sports in Philadelphia, but yeah, that guy's
Hey, last one, Xander. Get this. Protector of the year. Here are my candidates. You want to hear them?
Yeah, they should back give Lane Johnson about 6 of them.
Number 1 is Lane.
Me too. Number
Okay,
2 is Milata. Number 3 is Dickerson. All right, keep going.
Number 2 is Penei Sewell. Number 3 is Jordan Mailata. Number 4 is Creed Humphrey. And number 5 is Frankie Ragnow. Those would be my 5 guys, but I got 2 Eagles in there. I got Mailata. Imagine this. You guys got 2 OTs.
You could put probably Tristan Wirfs in there. You could probably put a couple other guys, but there's some good. I would put Landon on my list too. He's so violent with the way he does it, man.
I got 6. I got Tristan Wirfs and I got Landon there.
Yeah.
I think that kid's probably good. That kid, I mean, between Jordan Mailata and Tristan Wirfs, I mean, those are the 2 best left tackles in the sport. Make sure you check out Xander and Big John each and every single Monday through Friday for Birds 365. Xander, great stuff as always, bro. This was fun.
Appreciate you, Sills. Great segment. Appreciate everybody back here. Good stuff. Good stuff, Sills.
You bet. Thank you, Z. Appreciate it. We'll catch you tomorrow. That is our guy. Hey, got to take a time out here. Guys, our friends at Morgan & Morgan. Over $30 billion recovered with our friends. And the number 1 injury law firm in America is Morgan & Morgan. Thousands of attorneys from coast to coast are there battling with families, making sure that settlements are not going to be undervalued and making sure that insurance companies are not going to take advantage of you. That's not what Morgan & Morgan is about. Again, if you ever injured, do me a favor. Please check out our friends at forthepeople.com/Big Sills or Pound Law 529. That's forthepeople.com/Big Sills or Pound Law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sills sent you.